Welcome back to Terra Invicta, and let's credit Melbourne, Electo, and Harrow with 2 more kills, Divine Justice and Golden Void Sailor, which critically has given us 10 additional exotics. This is the currency I want. This and antimatter are going to power the next stage of my economy, so I'm happy to have them. Good job, Battle Group Melbourne. Now, you'll remember a few episodes ago, America caused a whole bunch of debris in low Earth orbit. Well, now I get to clean it up in exchange for a public opinion boost. Nobody asked any questions. I've also got my second round of super colliders have come online, which means our monthly antimatter production is now 1.3. Kind of handy. This should solve our cash problem and also start letting us build up for some serious stuff. I will scale to more super colliders. Just at the moment, my base metal income is mostly being directed towards more ships and also more base construction to get more basic metals. I will be going around turning off some nanofactories to increase production further, and I'm going to look for the resistance and others to see if I can buy more of the stuff. I just need it in order to get all my infrastructure up and to build my ships. But with antimatter production at 1.3 in 2039, I think that's a pretty good start. Now, you can't go letting the fleet get all the glory. Task Force Anzac has reached the auspicious Dawn base, so let's send in the Marines. I'm also interested to see whether their fleet wants to pick a fight. We've got 677 combat power since the Canberra has come along for the ride, so I actually doubt the Xenos are going to pick a fight. We'll see. Either way, chalking up another base should be a good win. Antimatter production is up to 1.5 per month, and I am of half a mind to go replace some nanofabs with some additional super colliders around Mercury. It'll sort of equalize out our production, our consumption of these metals, but massively increase our production of money. It's just more efficient to convert these resources into antimatter than it is to convert them into cash through nanofactories. It's just a better approach. So once I've done that industrial rekey, I'm going to probably ease off the expenditure for a while and focus instead on fleet construction. We've got a whole bunch of mission control in production. What we need is ships to fill it. Well, we destroyed the base, but it does look like the aliens have come out to play. 2.4k combat power, 2 dreadnoughts and a destroyer up against our 3 marine transports and the Canberra. I think we are going to evade. Neither side chooses to engage. And let's burn hard for Earth, I think. Mission here is accomplished. Let's go home. 5.25 weeks, I'll take it. I do want better engines, but the Daedalus Torch, the next upgrade engine for me, just won't unlock for me. Random chance. I'm being somewhat unlucky, but I've been blessed in so many aspects of this playthrough that I don't feel that I can complain. In any case, while we're waging this large-scale war, our scientists are still considering how to put an end to this threat properly, which means we have done the wormholes research. The Hydra wormhole is, according to the eggheads, something called an Ellis drain hole. Up until a month ago, they were telling everyone these things couldn't possibly exist. Now they're telling us they do. Whatever. They've given a long techno-babble explanation, which is totally useless from a tactical perspective. I love Castile. Long story short, they have no idea how it works, they have no idea how the aliens made it, and they have no idea of where to start looking. The one bit of useful information they've come up with is that the two sides of the wormhole are unequal. Mass limits going back through the wormhole are much lower than the mass limits coming here. Apart from that, all they can tell us is that more research is required. I hate these guys. So now we need to complete the choke point research when it becomes available, which I will do. So what we have discovered essentially is that the aliens have a wormhole that allows them to access our system. We can go back through it, but the limits of what we can send through are even tighter than the limits they face, which are pretty extreme. You know, it's roles like this that cause me to be suspicious of people's loyalty. That said, it is probably just a 98.9 versus 99, but I might send an Inspire mission to Vincent R anyway, just to remind him what side he's on. In any case, Battle Group Perth should be about to start a major conflict. Here we are. Alien Fleet Victor 35 left the safe confines of its station around Ganymede. It's made up of 2 destroyers, a gunship, 3 mag laser corvettes. Silver Fortress, this is all laser mag, this is all laser mag, this is all laser mag. So what you've got here is, except for one ship which mounts a laser, you have a 4.5k combat value fleet against a 3.1k combat value fleet. I've combined 2 of my intercepting battle cruiser groups, but I've also added the 3 monitors that I had available in system. These are the point defense phaser turret with laser engine, North Island monitor class, and I believe I still have one. No, these are all North Islands. Okay, I don't have any of the Oz Post ones. Those have gone back to Earth. So Pharaoh, Shogun, and Tercio, none of which have been given custom names, are just basically PD boats. 4-point defense phasers, 3 advanced laser engines, ups the output on those phasers from 50 to 80, which is a significant impact in damage and range. So the idea here is that I thought if I brought enough point defense, I can deal with most of these ships even though they massively outgun me. We're going to go in cloud formation. We're going to go in center with the most... Who are we going to put in the center? Because what I want, ideally, I want long-range ships at the wings, which will hopefully put the... No, actually, no. I want the long-range boats in the center. I want the battle cruisers in the middle, and I want the monitors on the wings. Not sure if the game will give me this, but we'll try. Both fleets are willing to fight. Prepare for combat. Here we go. All right, I think it's actually given me the opposite of what I originally wanted. Oh no, it's actually just sort of chaotic. So we've got an odd formation of battlecruiser, battlecruiser, battlecruiser. We've got some in the back, again, because of the weird ship classification that I'm dealing with. So what we really need is to create a off-center formation, and we need to catch the rear vessels up. So we will burn them forward. The problem about this is it will give them far more velocity than their kin, but what we will do is we'll compensate by accelerating the others once we get there. Now there's not much laser firepower on the other side, so we can afford to make my traditional turn. I saw one comment asking, why do I make this traditional turn at the start? Doesn't it just expose the size? Yes, it does, but I've only got one laser out there on the field and I have enough side armor to deal with it at this range. I don't want to go to the merge because while I have a lot of front armor and some rear armor, I have very little side armor, and if I pass through the alien formation, there's inevitably going to be some ship which is able to engage me from my side armor. So we're going to try and avoid that if at all possible. We're going to adjust the facings. We're not going to immediately designate a priority target. What I do want to do is make sure the monitors are in a position to do a lot of interceptions, which means being out front. I think more like this. So something like this with the battleships in the back in a position to catch up as soon as possible. Something like that should be acceptable. All right, let's run it. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 victors against our fleet. Should be good. Looks like they're starbursting. That's just a typical evasive alien formation because they know mag rails are incoming. If we do have a priority target, it's going to be the Transcendent Fury. So where is the Transcendent Fury? I didn't mean to priority target it, so we're going to clear the primary target for everyone. But the ship that I really want to destroy once it gets in range is anything that gets super close or the laser boat. Okay, looks like most of the missiles are heading down here. So what I want to do is probably pitch down. Something like that. And then equalize like that. Bring the fleet more together. Resolve the formation just a bit. They're not super chaotic, but they're not perfect either, so we can refine this a bit. And I'm going to slow this right down to try and stay on top of it, because that's a lot of incoming missiles. Looks like Pharaoh's taking fire from lasers. That's okay. What's your engagement? Yeah, your engagement looks good. Your point defense phases are 360, so you should be okay. Perth is pitching down as expected. Pharaoh's PD is now lighting them up. That's 4 boost. Look at this interlocking 8-point defense phases boosted by all those advanced laser engines. You can see the refire rate on those is something superb. At this point, where is the Transcendent Fury? It's nowhere to be seen. I'm going to priority target Holy Victory because it's side on. Just a really easy target at this point. But so far, we are keeping up with all the incoming. Reorient the Desolation just slightly. Battleships in the rear are still approaching. The Resolute Justice is becoming a problem because we're getting very, very close to being in the merge, but I've got all these ships coming in that kind of need to be neutralized immediately, otherwise we are going to end up in a merge. Looks like Shogun took a hit. Alright, we're in a situation where we're now in a bit of a furball. They had the velocity, they've decided to use it. So we're going to stay addressed to target, but we're probably going to have to do something more like this. The PD boats are going to have to turn a little bit and rely on that point defense as long as the Transcendent Fury dies at some point soon. So what I'm going to do is tell the Melbourne to kill... Actually, no, the Melbourne's got relatively close range weapons. Melbourne can kill the Holy Victory. What I need is a... I can't remember if she's got PD. I think we're okay for the moment, but I'm going to switch soon. Probably now. Okay, they're in phaser. They're in close range or at phaser range now. So Electo, you can priority target Austral. Actually, no. Actually, yes. Priority target for both of you is Austral Wind. Alright, I'm generally happy with this. The Golden Void Sailor and the Whispering Veil, the long-range Dreadnought combatants with their big mag cannons, I actually don't think they're going to be able to get through any ship's defenses, so I think we're okay. And we want to start correcting and swinging. Just want to make sure no one's going to collide here. They're off plane, but we'll adjust regardless. Something like that. Continuing to envelop from the right. We'll deal with the Dreadnoughts last. Basically, I want to clean up the other ships first, because we can defend against just about everything the Dreadnoughts have. But Harrow, which has got a lot of velocity on it, can get nice and close and probably do the termination. Is there anyone else that needs to be desperately adjusted? Perth. Perth needs to adjust its priority target to Roaring Void. I want to kill the small ship, but Cresting Wave looks like the one that's going to die. I want to turn those guns around. Shogun so far the only one of our vessels that's taking significant damage. But that's okay, that's the job of the monitor. The job of the monitor is to draw fire. I think she's been priority targeted by the mag rounds. These are the heavy mag rounds that require a lot of PD, but you can see drifting the PD boats into them should keep us safe from them. Take off padlock, and now here's the question. Do we go into sort of a pursuit re-engagement at the rear and rely on just Desolation in order to kill the Dreadnoughts? I think we engage Harrow, Electo, and Perth with this flank and just assume that our PD can take care of the opponent in the other direction. And I want to start hard burning and reversing the attitude of Harrow. Maybe Electo does go after the Dreadnoughts, like that. They should turn around and re-engage. I don't think the aliens think they've lost the battle yet. This sort of mass of PD boats is going to keep drifting towards the dreadnoughts where it's most useful. And we're going to do something like that. Because remember, the dreadnoughts have basically no armor. Their strength is the immense firepower of these very heavy mag rails. You can see Harrow's doing a hard burn to sort of decelerate. Perth is sort of out by herself, but that's okay. She can handle them. One dreadnought down. PD's not going to be able to keep up with the amount of incoming. Yeah, her midsection's wrecked. Phaser fire's coming in. More heavy mag rounds. I think her PD's destroyed at this point because she just couldn't help herself. Okay, so now we only have threats on one flank, so really at this point the priority, I love the explosions on those larger ships, is to swing basically everyone around. And yes, I will go in there in a moment and make sure that no one's going to crash into each other. I can always adjust attitudes in order to make sure that doesn't happen. Something like that. And Electo just needs to decelerate. Electo's just got too much. It's because they were at the rear of the formation at the start. Not corrected anywhere near enough. And Perth, all Perth needs to do is stay alive until others arrive. Silver Fortress is the priority target. Perth is engaging. It is sort of oddly beautiful. Looks like we've got a kill in the back there. Silver Fortress is still holding up, but mag rails are going out. I am looking forward to Plasma. Plasma will be very well suited to some of these ships. Just like they've started to roll out Plasma to deal with my PD blobs, I'm going to have to roll out Plasma to deal with some of these ships. Only ships left are Austral Wind and Resolute Justice. No, Perth. Perth is padlocked. Perth needs to be off padlock. Apologies. And the new priority target is Resolute Justice. The rest of the fleet completes their Tokyo drift, but I think the fight is going to be over by the time they arrive. My mouse is playing up during a major battle. That is perfect. But I think we're basically good. Where is the Austral Wind? Looks like she is moving away from us at decent clip. She's not burning though. She might have lost her engines. So what I found works in this situation is I'll just lay in a sort of pursuit course, and if all else fails, what I can do is set one of my ships to launch a ramming attack. They'll destroy it long before they actually make the ram, but what it does is plot a maximally efficient, maximum burn intercept course, which I really think you should be able to do without enabling ramming speed, but, you know, for the moment, it is what it is. Looks like we've got two ships that are going to be in pursuit. Only one of them really needs to make the catch. Let's make it 3. And let's wind this up. Are you running? Alright, it's running. So what I'm going to do, this is probably going to take a long time, is I'm going to set probably the Perth to ram its opponent, which will optimize its course to intercept, as long as I priority target the Austral Wind. And the Perth should now basically do the best chase pattern it possibly can. Yes, I do pay 25 influence for the privilege, and yes, I am technically risking the fact that the Perth might actually ram it and be destroyed. But if I don't destroy this last ship, the danger is I don't get any exotics from this fight from any of the other ships that we have destroyed. So you can see the Perth is now engaging. And she's made the kill. Fantastic. Okay. So there you are. Exploitation. I probably could have done that manually without resorting to the ramming command. I would love an intercept command, but it did its job. Battle complete. Minor damage to Shogun. Everything else looks to be okay. Well, actually, apparently damage to Pharaoh, Shogun, Tertio, and Electo. But Holy Victory, Red Mountain, Transcendent Fury, Roaring Void, Whispering Veil, Golden Void Stalker, Cresting Wave, Silver Fortress, Resolute Justice, and Austral Wind destroyed. 24.4 exotics in hand. Thank you very much, Battle Group Perth. That is going to make all the difference, I think, in the ongoing battle for the Jovian system. Let's check the alien fleet totals. Well, they still have 35,000 combat power, which is more than they had a while ago, but it means that we've taken a significant chunk out of this. This means they would have been above 40,000 just a moment ago. Not bad. Well done, Battle Group Perth. I'm probably going to give them the benefit of a couple of repairs because I don't know what more than cosmetic damage they've suffered, so I may as well let the ships regenerate for a couple of days before I send them out again, preferably again targeting large blocks of incoming or groups that have left the confines of the station. That was a big group of ships that had grouped up out of ships that I hadn't been able to intercept in previous episodes, so getting them now is a big win. Now, one of the joys of putting up videos of you playing video games is showing people that you are, generally decent at the game on camera. The other great benefit is showing people that you're an idiot on camera. I have just decommissioned one of the most expensive construction projects that I've ever embarked on in this game. What I had done was looked at one of the orbits of Jupiter. Let me show you what I did. So here we are. This is JAM1. We are currently, if we're looking at this station, we are in orbit of this asteroid in Jupiter orbit. The reason is I saw this number here. This is the antimatter resource column. The idea is, due to various astrophysical circumstances, antimatter gets naturally created in very, very small amounts and trapped in the magnetic fields around certain celestial bodies. And you can get antimatter farms to go and harvest this stuff. So I saw 2 here, and I'm like, wow, okay. So I went and built a station. Because on these stations you can build things called antimatter farms. Antimatter farms say they give you 50% of the antimatter in an orbit. They're cheaper to run than super colliders. They're still very, very expensive though, so I had to build heavy fusion reactor farms, 1 per antimatter farm, on the assumption that I would get 50% production. Even though I couldn't use the Mercury solar generations, this investment of an awful lot of rare material and whatnot was still a good idea. No. That antimatter value expressed here is not in units of resources. It's in micrograms. So I would get 50% of a microgram per year per farm. That may be scientifically accurate, but I don't want to be here for a bloody century when my super colliders are producing this stuff by the kilo. So no, my extremely low stockpile of noble metals, I decided to invest like a couple of months worth of income in producing a station that I have just abandoned because I realized it would produce absolutely nothing of bloody value. Go me. So there you are, guys. Don't farm your antimatter. Build super colliders around Mercury and smash it out artificially like normal people. Harvesting from nature won't get you anywhere. Maybe there are places in the solar system this makes sense, but with values of 1 or 2, not a chance. The value would need to be orders of magnitude higher for farming to make sense. Again, scientifically accurate perhaps, but certainly not useful from an in-game perspective. And wait, now Nero's failed a 98 at the same time. I'm just going to go inspire both of them. They're probably fine, and I'm probably just very unlucky, but I'm going to go inspire them anyway. It's good practice, just in case they happen to be turned. Alright, so you may have noticed my mission control jump up. This is because my fissile base in the Jupiter system and one of the new bodies came online, which means we're now paying a 6 MC premium because of the different number of spatial bodies that we have, astronomical bodies rather, that we have mines on. I don't like paying that. So what I'm going to do is shut down immediately this mine Vercingetorix base that I took from the Resistance. Instantly you can see massive drop in utilized MC. And then, for good measure, I'm going to just decommission the HAB. 51 boost is extreme. Is anyone willing to buy it from me, do you think? Let's check relations. So we're in so we might be able to trade with Exodus. We can definitely trade with the Resistance, but I don't think either of them can afford stations. And the Academy would require bribes. But the Academy does have free MC. So maybe instead of spending 50 boost on abandoning the station, I will try and sell Vercingetorix base to the Academy, even if it's basically for free. That'll get it off my hands cheaper than abandoning it. Either way, it'll save me even more MC at a time where I have ships about to come online. Paying the 3 current mission control premium, I think I'm okay with for the moment. But I may have to shut down another asteroid in the near future, and then maybe even one more if I decide to go to Ganymede. I can get a lot of resources out of those Jovian moons, so it's probably time to retire or sell off the asteroid bases. It's just there's no scale there as compared to putting 8 mines on Io or 12 on Ganymede or something like that. Meanwhile, Perth is repairing. They should be ready to go again soon. There was no exotics damage to them, so it's a pretty basic metal and noble metal repair, which makes me think it's probably mostly armor plating that we're repairing, which is a sign of a good fight. The Anzacs have reached Terra, they have reloaded, they have refueled, they have fresh angry marines on board, which is the best type of marine. They're setting course for 62 Arato, the next alien base that we want to eliminate, complete with their escorting battleship, the Canberra. I think that they should do fantastic work. There is a defending fleet there. The aliens are now putting defending fleets around all their remaining mining bases, but I'm hoping that Canberra should be able to deal with 1 or 2 patrol ships. She's pretty much spec'd to be able to deal with the sort of ships the aliens have been using up to this point, and while they're starting to roll out more plasma, that's still a minority of the ships out there, so I have every faith in Canberra's ability to do the job. Now, I've said before that I won't be showing every intercept at this point, so I will just note that I'm tasking Battle Group Perth with Victor 26, which is an incoming group of 4 ships due in Ganymede in late November. I will show the battle if it's interesting, otherwise I will try and skip through these. The pace of interceptions is starting to slow, because I've noticed instead there are still some aliens incoming, but a lot more are actually flying back out to their other bases and rallying up there. We'll see if they start heading back towards Earth or if they rally up. I'm not quite sure what the plan is. I'm sure it will become apparent in a couple of months. Now that I have a way of generating huge amounts of money through the form of antimatter farming, direct investment is about to become more attractive. So I'm getting adaptive FDI modeling. This reduces the money cost of direct investments even further, and I'm actually considering putting more influence generating stations in low Earth orbit once I've got my MC boosted up a little bit more and have the room for it, because then we can really unleash the potential of direct investment powered by antimatter sales, maybe exotic sales, and space generated influence in order to really crack the economy of the unified superstate that we're building into high gear. Superstates like this are going to have lots of problems. You're going to need to invest in them, but if you do, the benefits could be immense. So, we are now 27 December. We're just over a month away from unification of the UK and EU, and then we'll get started on the next stage of unification. India, meanwhile, is starting to economically develop again, even though this is a little expensive, but it'll help bring unrest down and science output up. And damn it, Battlefleet Terra actually missed an intercept, or rather, I missed an intercept. I missed that there was a ship incoming, and as a result, Battlefleet Terra did not get the intercept order. So let's do a quick check to see if anything else is incoming for low Earth orbit. Doesn't look like that, doesn't look like that. Romeo, I'm noticing more and more resistance vessels. They're way over MC cap, but they do have a substantial fleet. It's like 1.6, 1.7k fleet power, and apparently growing, so they must be upgrading ships or something. I'm actually impressed with how powerful the resistance fleet is at this stage. Not enough to overpower anything we have. Certainly we could probably solo it with 1 or 2 of our battle cruisers, but I'm still impressed. No matter how far in the future we go, Humanity First will continue to believe that the solution to many foreign policy problems is to just send the Marines. Desolate Grave Base. Marines drop, drop, drop. If there is an intercept from the aliens, we'll fight them. It's going to be one battleship against potentially, I think, 2 lighter ships and a dreadnought. But with the marine transport here to provide point defense, I reckon Hobart can handle it. Alright, well, I guess we get to find out if I was just talking out of my ass. This is a Whispering Vale class dreadnought with a full fuel tank. And this is what? Spinal Mag Cannon, Glittering Jewel, lots of missiles, lots and lots of missiles, and Iridescent Star. I think that's an exotic using Torpedo Bay. This is an awful lot of missiles. But each of these guys, these marine transports, does have a point defense phaser turret and a 60cm UV phaser battery. And the Hobart's got 2 phaser defense turrets and a 480cm cannon on the front. So I actually think as long as we group up, like huddle up really close together, our PD should be sufficient for this fight. That does mean the grouping up thing has to happen. So what that means is Hobart needs to catch up with the rest of the vessels, and very, very slightly the others need to come closer together. Something like that. We'll let the Nandao drift. See, we want Hobart to catch up, but we also don't want Hobart to achieve so much velocity that eventually the other ships can't catch it. Whoops, I used the W key at the wrong time. It's alright, it's still going in the direction it needs to go. What we're going to do is turn these guys off to the side. Since we're relying on their PD, not their armor, they don't really have any armor. Looks like they're handling it so far. Alright, let's slow this down. Rotate, rotate, rotate. Come together into the same sort of drift. And what do I want? I want E. There we are. Rotate. We'll put a priority target on the Dreadnought for what it's worth. That looks like a volley directed at the battleship. So everyone, guess who gets to play interception duty? That's right, all of you. Because dragooning civilian ships is fun. Where do they belong? In the battle fleet. So here you can see the laser array and PD engaging this string of missiles as they move towards the Hobart. What we will still do, though, is padlock the Hobart, because if anything gets through that defense array, I want her prow armor to take the hits. But so far, it looks like we're doing the job. Her primary gun is on Guardian mode, which means it won't fire on its opponent. Whoops, I'm hitting escape. And again, I think my mouse is causing trouble at an inopportune time, so you get to watch me play out this battle while I pull it out and plug it back in again. Alright, there we are, that fixed the problem. And while I was doing that, the Whispering Vale was destroyed. There you are, look, even with no... The Admiral is unnecessary. The Humanity First Fleet is so powerful that a couple of marine transports and a battle cruiser can kill a dreadnought even when the Admiral is out of control due to hardware and communication issues. Try to explain that one in the after-action report. Now, that should have been... Oh, it wasn't a fancy dreadnought. I was hoping it was a fancy dreadnought, but apparently not. Anyway, they're unavailable for operations just for a couple of minutes. Then, I believe, they can attempt their landing again because the Marines didn't actually go in. Marines, 28 November. Drop, drop, drop. Alright, chalk up another one, and hopefully that gives us a bunch of intel which will allow us to locate alien operatives on Earth. Alright, I've been holding off on building larger classes of vessels until I had a better engine, but the engine refuses to fire, so I'm going to have to go with what I got. One class of ship we've been really waiting for a while now, and I'll introduce you to some others we've just built, is a true siege vessel, one that's capable of taking down space stations. To me, that means weapons that are capable of getting through or bypassing PD, which is why I've gone with heavy plasma. I also want a long range so I can outrange most of the weapons that will be firing at me. Heavy plasma cannon Mark IIIs have a firing range of 1,000 kilometers, which is about as good as you can get. If I was willing to forego the point defense on the hull, then a dreadnought would actually be better because it would allow us to fit 2 of these heavy plasma batteries in exchange for just downgrading this one to a smaller version. But I like this better because I think every ship should have some organic PD. What antimatter allows us to do, however, to get this beast mobile, let's just throw the radiators on, and let's throw a battery on, is insert an antimatter spiker. An antimatter spiker gives a 50% bonus to thrust in fission and fusion drives, which will increase our cruise acceleration to 43.4 millig's. No, we haven't mounted any armor yet, but we can still mount our hydron traps as well, which gives us an even greater boost in thrust. Right now, with no armor on it, this thing would be capable of 2.6 Gs of combat acceleration and 1.1 kps on 10 propellant tanks. Not bad for something that weighs 7,000 tons. We're not done yet. A repair bay should allow the vessel to self-repair. ECM Mark III, which is now alien protected, should mean the ship is a little more resistant to alien firepower. And then, what do we want beyond that? We want component armoring, which we've unlocked. This halves all damage to internal components that happens to chip through the armor. Very, very important. And then we've still got several slots open. We could add a heatsink. It's unlikely to need one, but we will add a lithium heatsink just in case. We will add a single laser engine in order to boost the PD, and just for good measure, I'm going to put elite marines aboard my vessel just so it, this will make sense in a moment, okay? Just bear with me for a moment. The armor, we're not going to stretch for the exotics armor because I don't think you should capture super advanced alien metamaterials and then use them to make really hard armor. So adamantane it is, and this time, still going, we're packing 210 armor points on the front. In fact, I may even go further, 250 points of forward-facing armor. But we're at primary target here are stations. So 4 side armor and 5 rear armor it is, because against a station, which is immobile, we shouldn't really be having any problems. If you really want to, in fact, I will, for good measure, put 5 armor on the side, and that's that. This is a Titan. It's going to be slow to get to the target. It's got half the cruise acceleration of our battle cruisers, but 675 kps should be enough to get it where it's going. Saving the propellant really doesn't speed it up that much. So I'll give it 782 kps, more than enough to get to any siege. But the key here is 16,000 tons of forward armor plating. But we can afford it. A little bit of antimatter and a little bit of exotics. And of course, we need a name for a ship that will approach slowly and then terminate the target with extreme prejudice. We need names that inspire fear. And so it is only appropriate. Well, it seems the aliens are responding to our marine attacks by building new bases, but they're building them out on their original home planet. Make now has 4 bases on it, their original spawn point that they finally occupied all of. This to me suggests that they're sort of bunkering up around their initial foothold instead of continuing to try and expand into the system. Although when you look at the game from their perspective here on Make, it certainly does seem like they're launching a significant number of attacks. That said, I'm pretty confident for the moment I'm on top of it. Not least of which because I'm about to have some new ships to show you in Battlefleet Terra in just a moment. Alright, welcome 2 new classes of ships to Battlefleet Terra, and they're not the only ones that are in construction. The first you've already seen, I believe, the Auckland-class battleships. These are our plasma battleships. They're still the previous generation technology, but now they mount plasma cannons instead of rail cannons in their middle slots. I am thinking about refitting all of these ships to use antimatter spikers rather than muon spikers, but for the moment the shipyards are busy building new ships. The other class of vessel is this, the Cairns-class battleship. This thing, on paper, has an enormous combat power, because it's designed to help kill motherships. The cans mounts 2 magazines, ECM, a hydron trap, a heat sink, which we frankly probably do not need except for in the case of emergencies, and then an interesting missile armament. It's got a coil cannon Mark III on the front because that requires PD to shoot down. It's got 3 sets of Harlequin missile bays. These are fast-moving missiles that fire in salvos of 3, again to saturate point defense, and then 3 bays of Nemesis nuclear torpedoes. If even one of those gets past PD, the mothership is done. And that's the job of the cans, to kill enemy supercapitals using its nuclear payload. We're fighting for real now, so the use of nuclear weapons has well and truly been authorised. Now here's an example of where I might actually use direct investment. I'm now 3 MC over and no stations are going to be ready for a while, but I have basically infinite money and a whole bunch of additional influence available to me, so I can produce maybe 3 mission control points basically out of thin air by direct investing into the United Kingdom. Done. Oh look, I have no money. I guess I will sell 2 points of my antimatter for 90,000 cash. And we can get on with our lives. Alright, we've got the UK's unity value up. I think now it is time. Unification of the UK and the EU is, I believe, complete. That's an EU Australia, an EU New Zealand, an EU Timor-Leste, an, an EU Pacific presence, and of course an EU UK. Job done. Now to federate the Eurasian Union and the European Union. We've already gone down to 627 control points, which means I can start thinking about breaking the protectorate out of China. But let's get the countdown started on this unification. Now, if you want proof that Exodus isn't in fact run by a savvy businessman, look at this trade deal. Exodus is in economic difficulty, and yet he's willing to trade away a third of his critical metals and rare stockpile, which I need to put to use building more mission control, although taking more countries should help me to a limited extent, in exchange for the antimatter beam core reactor, something which, frankly, he's not going to be able to build because he's got no bloody antimatter. I could also try and sell him antimatter, but I'd rather convert that directly into money. In any case, a generous trade he accepts, which should solve our stockpile issue for the time being at least. I just need to free up some MC to build more, MC stations. I'm also going to go around to stations that have spare slots at the moment, put in some command centers, because it's time to scale up our fleet presence like you wouldn't believe. Meanwhile, Jupiter is full of intercepts right now, and there's also a whole bunch of Victors. So let's group them with Victor 159. Where's Victor 159? 183, 32. Whole bunch of incoming towards Ganymede. Rallies with 159. Alright, so that's a fleet that's going to go to low Earth orbit. So now this is the next level of sophistication by the AI. Instead of the conga lining towards a location and then rallying there, they're now meeting along the way, rallying along the burn to low Earth orbit so that they arrive as a fleet, even though they come from multiple separate locations. I don't think it will solve the problem, but it's certainly an improvement over their behavior before. You can see the AI trying different things. They're trying doom stacks, they're trying conga lines, they're trying these situations where they group up right before arrival. But I think we're building ships fast enough that we should be able to keep up with them. Victor 158, Victor 161, neither of those are going towards Earth, they're all going towards Ganymede. I'm tempted to try and send the Aucklands. Yeah. Now that would unfortunately set the Aucklands on path for Ganymede, but is that so bad? I know we've got some incoming fleets. Yeah, we've got some mothership fleets. Maybe a cheeky intercept here isn't so bad. Sorry, I could cut this, but I'm tempted not to. I could make an intercept with the 2 Aucklands on a target that's otherwise going to fly towards Ganymede, if I want to. I'm pretty sure the Ganymede fleets can handle it, but do I want to reinforce them yet more? That's the question. 11 February. I'm tempted because I can always build, well, I guess I could also build more ships actually out there. No, I'm going to build a siege fleet at Earth, and then I'm going to take out some local bases. Battlefleet Jupiter can handle itself for the meantime. And with that interesting piece of art, it looks like we've captured a live griffin. Perform initial assessment on a living griffin. We have no doubt this is a sapient species. Obviously, intelligence glints behind its otherworldly eyes, but also what looks for all the world like fear. Despite its grotesque appearance, it seems strangely cowed, even deferential in the presence of humans, flinching when we draw near and showing no objection to any request we might make of it. Those few that it understands at least. This behaviour would seem to suggest the creature is accustomed to following orders. Whatever place the griffins occupy in the alien hierarchy, it is surely not one of leadership. In other words, this is another domesticated slave species. We get that because Sky Shield base has been destroyed by humanity first. Good job. So that's another marine operation that is now complete thanks to Task Force Anzac. The question now is, where do they burn next? The burn from Erato to Jupiter would take 5 weeks, but I think we want some marines. We could also go to Saturn. But I think this group, at least, since we've already got one burning towards Jupiter, we need one group at home. So Space Adelaide, it is 5.18 weeks. Maximum burn, engage. Now I want to close out with an observation about humanity first. I've just finished the their purpose technology, and absolutely nothing pops up. This is in a way hilarious. For just about every other faction I played in the beta, I usually got that tech by 2035 because it was usually a mission objective, and it usually told you more about the Hydra motivation, what they were trying to accomplish, about their society, about their culture. For Humanity First, it tells you nothing, because Humanity First doesn't give a shit. They already know that the Hydra are here to enslave us, and that's literally all they need to know. Beyond that, it's just how do we kill the things. They don't need to understand Hydra culture unless it is tactically significant. That silent bit of storytelling for me tells me everything I need to know about Humanity First. And as much as space gets all the attention, I think this is something special. The European Union and the Eurasian Union have now joined a federation. Under the Eurasian Union, come, I believe, 29 July 2040, it will become possible to unify these states. The resulting government will rule over more than 1 billion people. The GDP between them should be the largest economy in the world. And we're going to see it in less than a year. We're getting there. We're getting to something special. And in the meantime, since that unification, the Eurasian Union's democracy value, I think, will trump the entire affair. We're going to cross 8.0 and into a state of full democracy relatively soon. I promised we'd get there. It took a while, but we're going to get there. And before we close out, I have another ship design to introduce to you. Just launched from our Earth shipyards, this is the Drop Bear. The Drop Bear is a Lancer, which basically means a ship with only 3 midline hull mounts, but in exchange it gets the full 4-slot forward hardpoint, which I have used to mount the Spinal Coiler Mark III. This thing is basically the Mac cannon from Halo, or the primary gun of the Dreadnoughts in Mass Effect. It's basically a long spinal mount, maximally sized coil gun that shoots slugs at extremely high velocity. What this gives you is a weapon that does 214 damage, which, when you compare it, the heavy plasmas that I'm mounting on the Titans, the max class Titans, do about 35. Now yes, this round can be intercepted, but that's a big damage difference. It's got a targeting range of 1,000 kilometers and a muzzle velocity of 9.9 kilometers per second. On this vessel, which is basically a giant gun, we've mounted a bunch of utility modules. It's slower than our battleships, but still reasonably well paced. It's shorter range than our battleships, but reasonably well paced. And it's got 200 forward armor, which translates to 7.5 meters of adamantium plating on the front of the vessel. So it's a bit ungainly, it's a bit slow, but it's basically a giant gun. The biggest gun, in fact, that humanity can put into space if you're not using nukes or antimatter weapons. The point of the Drop Bear is twofold. Firstly, it's a siege ship, just like the Max class is, but with a different emphasis. The emphasis being, find a way to get these rounds through enemy PD in order to smack things. The secondary role is, again, when you're engaging a mothership, this thing is going to fire more frequently than nukes are. It's going to saturate PD more. It takes more than one hit from PD to intercept, and the hits are going to hurt pretty bloody badly, even through armor. The third role, hence the name Drop Bear, is orbital bombardment. Take the biggest cannon that we can field that has bombardment capability. This thing does, and now if we undock the vessel, we can just hit the bombard button and pick whatever on planet Earth that we want to hit with the largest slug that we can possibly accelerate from space. This is basically the rods from God concept, except there's a giant accelerator giving the thing some velocity, and the round is much lighter than the tungsten rods envisioned by that program. So the Drop Bear may not be a mass-produced class, but she's still going to have some utility, giving us an orbital bombardment capability that we have lacked up to this point. When we engage the motherships, she'll be a useful adjunct to the fleet, and if the Max class goes out to start engaging stations, well, the Drop Bear is not going to slow them down. Certainly is capable of just attracting fire, has 3 additional point defense phases, which is always useful, and of course this cannon is a giant threat to anything you point it at. The Drop Bear, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, I've developed additional flights of battleship or versions of our previous ships, the Flight to Sydney, the Flight to Auckland, the Flight to Melbourne, and the Flight to Cairns. These are upgraded versions which basically, I mean, the theme holds true for all of them. Let's look at the Flight to Melbourne, for example. All of the Flight 2 and 3 vessels are in fact slightly slower in terms of cruise acceleration, despite having the same range as their Flight 1 colleagues. They'd actually be worse except for the fact that we've swapped in antimatter spikers. This is one of the upgrades. Swapping in the antimatter gives them much greater thrust and allows them to carry additional weight while not losing too much acceleration. We've primarily used that to bring the side armor from 5 up to 10. We may also increase the rear armor from 5 to 10. This is a response to the proliferation of alien plasma weapons. Alien plasma weapons will struggle to get immediately through 10 side armor. They can chip it away slowly, they can ablate the armor, burning it away and eventually get through, but we're not so much interested about that. We can usually point our prow at the enemy. We're interested in catching the occasional or the long-range hits from things like laser arrays and things like plasma cannons. This basically means we're introducing antimatter and accepting some performance loss in exchange for introducing an additional 2,500 tons of side armor. In fact, a little bit more, I think. Closer to 3,000 tons of side armor in order to keep these vessels safe. We will do valid refits on all of these vessels when we can, but at the moment the shipyards are choked, producing Max-class Titans and the Drop Bear Lancers. One thing I do recall is that the actual Max class itself only has that 5 side armor, but that's because she's meant to be engaging from 1,000 kilometers away. They're standoff vessels, so ideally in most conflicts they won't get into that sort of range. If we were to increase the side armor, we're reducing the cruise acceleration to 7.8 milligs. I will eventually produce a more heavily armored version of the Max and our other vessels, but for that I really need engine upgrades. I need my Daedalus Torch, or I need to go all the way and start developing and introducing antimatter drives, which really I had only intended to use when we need to go out to the outer system. We're basically at the limits of what the Zeta Hellions can deliver us. They can drive battleships with very high performance characteristics. They're just usable when it comes to Titans and Dreadnoughts. I really want something better, so let's hope the engine tech pops soon.